best luck to everyone with the elections finishing up tonight at 10 o'clock. So best luck to everyone involved in that. And I think that kind of covers myself there as well. I just might throw it over to Lucian as well, because he's been liaising with Lisa Looney in regards to the extensions. Just a possible.
I guess there's not a huge amount to say. Just that Lisa Looney, who's the University VP for Academic Affairs, I spoke to her about the fact that 10-week semester was very short and that people were being given a lot of big assignments that they were expected to have in by the end of week 10. So I said anything that would allow a little bit more time or scope for a bit more time for people to have assignments in would be great. And I believe that has been communicated within the academic staff. So if any of you here are class reps, obviously you're being told that there's big meaty assignments that are making up the bulk of the semester and they're due by the end of week 10. You maybe get in touch with me and we can see what we can do and see if we can give you a little bit of extra time. Even a week doesn't make a difference because it was a short semester. So do get in touch because there is a bit of scope there, but that's all.
That's perfect. And I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has about anything there at all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Fergal and Lucian. I will open the floor for questions to Fergal about his verbal update. I don't see any questions coming in, so we shall move to a vote on the officer reports. So it should pop up on your screen now, and you are voting to accept the officer reports. Excellent. The officer reports have been accepted by majority. We shall move on to pre-nominated AOB. I shall ask in advance that only having essential things for pre-nom AOB would be really helpful, just because this meeting is going to go on for a good while longer than our previous CRC meetings. So if you have any pre-nominated AOB, please raise your hand now. Otherwise, we shall move on. Just give a quick minute. I am unmuting Connor Cassidy. Once you're unmuted, name and course code, please.
Hi everyone, Connor Cassidy, International Business Year 1. Just in regards to Zoom accounts, I've had a small number, admittedly.
Just a one word, just a quick
Zoom.
Sentence, and then we'll come back at the end.
Zoom.
INTV1 Zoom. Connor Cassidy. Wonderful. Do I have anyone else? Thanks, Connor. I'm just going to lower your hand. Thanks for that, Dean, as well, just in case. Yeah, we have. I'm just going to unmute you here. Just your name and course code, please, once you're unmuted. I'm just going to take the two that have their hands raised now.
Dave Paolo, ECE2, just class rep hub.
ECE2, class rep hub. Lovely. And last but not least, once I have you unmuted, name and course code, please.
Oisin O'Byrne, Bed 1. So timetable for semester 2.
Oisin O'Byrne, Bed 1. Semester 2 timetable, yeah. Cool. That is all the AOB I'm going to take. I'm just going to lower Oisin's hand. And we shall move on to items for agreement. First of all, we have Una Redmond with the OSL budget. Just let me try and find Una in the list here so I can ask her to unmute. Una, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yeah, I've done that now, thank you.
Cool, perfect. The floor is yours.
Okay, have you the budget?
Dylan should be able to display it now.
Okay, grand.
I sent it out to everyone as well.
Yeah, perfect. Oh, everyone has seen it. Okay. So, good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to be here again this year. First time I've ever done a class rep council virtually, but there again, this is the first time for everything. My name is Una Redmond. I'm the director of the Office of Student Life, which some of you probably know is the sort of overall company which has responsibility for the finance and the HR functions and the operational and strategic direction for clubs, societies and the Students' Union. So essentially the capitation budget flows through the Office of Student Life, which is a limited company, and you know, and all of that entails in terms of, you know, auditing and companies return to the CRO every April. We also have a board of directors who have already seen this budget and approved it in principle. So I'm happy enough to just run through it. And then if there are any questions at the end, I'm equally happy to address those. So what listed there initially is the projected capitation income, which is that portion of your fee that goes towards funding the Students' Union and clubs and societies. It's projected always because I'm never quite sure exactly how many students we will have in any given academic year. Sorry. So the projection this year is, as you can see there, is 1.683 million, just under 1.7 million. And the projected spend then is what comes immediately underneath it. So wages and salaries, as you can see, is the bulk of it. That's wages and salaries for the OSL staff and the Student Union sabbatical team. And all the associated costs with it. So that includes employer PRSI and a pension contribution for all of the staff members, which is something we're obliged to do. Staff training, and most of these are fairly self-explanatory. Staff expenses, sabbatical expenses. The next one there is lease and service costs. That's the lease and the service fee that the OSL pays to the university for its space in the U building. Insurance expenses, again, fairly self-explanatory. Insurance in terms of employer liability for the staff and the sabbaticals, obviously, who are deemed from the perspective of the OSL to be employees. I know from the union they're a representative, but they're obviously employees because they're on our payroll, plus office insurance and all of that goes with it. That's a cost that's been rising in the last couple of years. Repairs and maintenance is literally, as it suggests, a provision that we have there for anything that might break down during the year. ASUA and ACUI affiliation are two staff associations that we're affiliated to. Relatively small fee, as you can see, for those. Conference fees, again, way down this year. We don't anticipate that there will be any conferences except virtual conferences this year. The USI conference is unlikely to be held, I think, and any staff conferences, one we normally go to in November, has been held virtually for like €300 or something. Election expenses to run our student union elections. Class rep, faculty rep, executive committee expenses around 8,000. That may or may not be as high this year. I think typically class rep council would have received some food at meetings, but obviously that isn't an option this year, I don't think, anyhow, unless Podge has some magic up his sleeve. And class rep training as well would often have been off-site and would have entailed some costs. So, but I put the provision there because there may be something that we would like to do with class reps before the year is over, and I would have discussed that with Podge, who has responsibility for the training of and the development of class rep council. Travel and accommodation, again, maybe been a bit optimistic. We probably won't be traveling anywhere or staying anywhere, but typically we would have an expense there for sometimes staff would attend meetings, may stay overnight, unusual, but typically sabbaticals, I think, would have some travel and accommodation expenses for visiting unions around the country and also for attending USI meetings. Campaign expenses, that's literally, as it suggests there, an allocation to cover the expenses for the various campaigns that the sabbatical team or the student union executive would decide to run over the course of the year. There's currently one on this week, I believe. So that's a budget there that's allocated to each of the officers to run the campaigns that they might like to do. Donations, again, is a provision. We make very few donations, but it's nice if we have a cause that somebody needs to feel dearly about and we make a donation to it. If needs be, it's a budget as opposed to an actual spend. Extracurricular awards and the arts bursary. The arts bursary is something that's funded jointly between the Office of Student Life and the Educational Trust. They put in €2,000, we put in €2,000, and then we distribute that €4,000 to students on application. It's actually open at the minute. So if there's anybody who's interested in the arts and might be interested in a small bursary, check our website for it. Just a little plug for it there. The extracurricular awards, we would normally have a small reception for students when they graduate from the UNIN module. Again, didn't happen this year. But we have promised the UNIN students who graduated or were due to graduate this month that we will do something for them when we can. So I think it's important that it's marked. Legal, professional, accountancy and software fees, literally as it says, legal fees, any professional fees we might have, audit fee and software. I actually increased that a little bit this year because just in case we needed to buy some more software for, I don't know, hosting meetings or something like, over and above what Zoom might do. Printing, postage, stationery and telephone, I anticipate that to be considerably down this year because we're not on campus and, you know, we're not using the phones to the same extent. We have incurred quite a considerable amount of extra postage this year because, as you know, we've been posting out the student leap cards at our expense rather than recharging that to the student. Office equipment technology, again, up this year a bit because we've had to buy some laptops for staff and some equipment for sabbaticals as well. Anyone basically who's had to work at home. So that would include desks and chairs. So we've kitted everybody out, hopefully safely and ergonomically compliant to work at home. Virtual and in-person events, that's our events budget, roughly similar to every other year, but obviously virtual this semester, but hopefully by the end of next semester, if things go well, we might be able to have some type of in-person event or events. Bank charges, again, as they are, that's literally what we charge. Again, might come down a little bit this year because of the lack of cash. Lodging cash to the bank is really what pushes our bank expenses. Bank charges up. USI affiliation is, as you know, DCUSU is affiliated to USI. The university collect the fee on our behalf, and it's part of the capitation income that comes in, and then we pay it on to USI in a couple of tranches throughout the year. And then finally, the allocation to clubs and the allocation to societies. So the SLC and CLC allocate those budgets. And the total projected spend then, as you can see, is just a tad shy of the total expected income, but nothing significant on those particular sums. So
thank you very much, Una. Has anybody any questions for Una about the OSL budget for the next year? Put your hand up, please, if you do. Don't be shy. I'll just give another minute just to see if anyone has any questions about the budget. Raise your hand, or if you don't want to speak on the camera, you can send it in the chat either. Yeah. Just make sure you send it publicly so everyone can see it.
You're too scary, Una. That's what it is. You've scared everyone.
You know me, Dylan, how scary I am and how fierce. I suppose just to add as well, even if you haven't got a question now, the idea is that, budgets and spend for the OSL, Students' Union incorporated in that, and clubs and stocks is transparent. We will, towards the end of this academic year, I'll be coming back to this meeting with the audited accounts from the last academic year. And at any time, we say, we're happy to share spend. We obviously won't get into people's individual salaries and, it's in categories, but, it's there. We have a really good accounting system at the minute, which is very up to date. So anyone who needs to see any expense or anything, it's available by just asking me.
Perfect. So, thanks for that, Una.
Not at all. You're very welcome.
I'm going to assume we have no questions, so we shall move on a vote. You are voting to approve the OSL budget for 2020-2021. Please vote on your screens now. Feeling very much like a game show.
Bleeding Marty Whelan over here, look at him.
Just your last couple of seconds, get your votes in. Like ask the audience on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That has been accepted by majority. Wonderful. Thank you very much for that, Una. And as Una said, if anyone has any questions through the year, feel free.
I was going to say pop into me, but I mean that not literally, but metaphorically.
Perfect.
Or drop me an email.
That's lovely. Thanks a million for that, Una. We shall move on to our next item for agreement. This is Black Students and Students of Colour Advisory Group, Gina O'Reilly, VP for Welfare and Equality, and this is going to be presented by Chloe McNamara. Please raise your hand so I can see you. Wonderful news. Chloe, just your name and course code when you unmute yourself.
Chloe McNamara, BECE2. So I'm presuming that most people have read the motion, but very briefly, I'm a student on the Black Students and Students of Colour Advisory Group that was set up earlier this year by Dean, the Vice President for Welfare and Equality. Myself, like many students, were very moved by the Black Lives Matter movement during the summer, and we're aware of slight underrepresentation of Black students and students of colour in leadership positions on the Students' Union and throughout the university. We know the DCU are committed to rooting out racism in the community and across the island of Ireland, including supporting anti-racism movements such as Black Lives Matter. And we just really think that the voices of Black students and students of colour are play an integral role and need to be heard. So as a result, we're proposing that Council mandate the Vice President for Welfare and Equality to draft a terms of reference for the Black Students and Students of Colour Advisory Group, which details the purpose and the governance of it, and mandate the Vice President for Welfare and Equality to present these terms at CRC 1 of semester 2. Council mandates the Vice President for Welfare and Equality to report on recommendations of the advisory group in each of their officer reports, and Council mandates that Black students and students of colour be maintained by the sabbatical team with a review each year. So yeah, we just love for this motion to pass, and we hope it would help Black students and students of colour to feel supported and heard, and might even make them feel encouraged and empowered enough to run for leadership positions in the future.
Thank you very much, Chloe, for that. Has anyone any questions, queries, points of order, anything at all? Please raise your hand if you do. Perfect. I'm just going to unmute you now. Please say your name and course code.
Sean McDonough, International Relations Year 1. Does this motion include religious groups as well as people of colour? And thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Dean, do you want to take this question, considering it's your motion? If you just raise your hand so I can find you. Wonderful.
Yeah, so I can answer that. So the way that the motion is written currently, it only speaks to the Black Students Student of Colour Advisory Group. Now, if in the Black Student and Students of Colour Advisory Group there is a diverse sort of religious representation, that's fantastic. But the way that this motion is kind of written, it only really speaks to the things that come up within the Black Students Student of Colour Advisory Group. So a lot of the discussions that are in that advisory group tend to focus around anti-racism work and that sort of thing, not specifically on encouraging religious diversity. But if that is something that you'd like to see that the union kind of look into, that is absolutely something that myself or someone else on the sabbatical team could look into as well.
Happy enough with that, Sean?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cool, perfect. Has anyone else any other questions or queries, points of order, anything like that? Please raise your hand if so. I have someone else, please. Where's it gone? Name and course code, please.
Yeah, Sean Smith, B4. Just a question about just the wording of the motion. If it is, I know the sabbaticals are changing next year, would it be worth putting in about the Vice President for Wellbeing? I think that's what it's changing to. Just in terms of reporting what the advisory group say.
Thank you very much, Dean.
Yeah, so this is something that we talked about when we were writing the motion together. So the wording of the motion says that the group, the advisory group, is maintained each year by the sabbatical team, and that's purposeful because we know that the sabbatical positions are changing after this year. The part of the motion that speaks to the Vice President for Welfare and Equality, so myself, reporting on the terms of reference, and the recommendations in the officer reports, that only talks about this year, because we don't necessarily know whose obligation it's going to be to look after the advisory group when the new sabbatical positions come in. So the line that's in the motion that talks about that the sabbatical team should maintain it each year with review, that's in there to say that they can figure that out once new sabbatical officers are elected and those positions change.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that, Dean. Has anyone else any questions about the motion or points of order or anything, really? Going once, twice. Okay, I think I'm going to close debate on that. So you are voting on the motion as presented. Please vote on your screen now. Wonderful. That has been accepted by majority. Thank you very much, Dean and Chloe. And we shall look forward to hearing from you at CRC 1 Semester 2 with the terms of reference. Look, Chloe, I'm just going to lower your hand. Perfect. And Dean, you again. You can unmute yourself now.
Perfect. Thank you. And do you want to screen share the motion?
That is Dylan's job. I'm sure Dylan is furiously rushing to do it now.
You're really letting us down here, huh? Okay. So I'm going to do my best to contextualize the motion as best that I can. There is a lot of information, there's a lot of stuff in here, so I imagine that there is going to be a lot of questions, or there potentially could be a lot of questions or things that people need clarification on. So I'm more than happy to do that once I get through the motion, but do give me a chance to get through all of it before the questions kind of come in. I just think that is most useful. So as you'll see in the background there, currently the Irish Blood Transfusion Service, so that is the main blood donation service in the country. They're the statutory body for blood donation, and they look after getting blood to hospitals and that sort of thing. Currently under their guidelines and regulations, men who have sex with men, so that would be gay men, bisexual men, straight men who happen to sleep with men, any other sort of identity that falls under that sort of umbrella, unless you stay abstinent for a year, you're not allowed to donate blood. The reason that that restriction is in is it follows on from a response to the AIDS pandemic in the 80s, where there was a lot of fear about gay men in particular donating blood and then indirectly passing on HIV to other folks. And really the restriction hasn't changed that much since that reaction back in the 80s. Now, back in 2017, it used to be a lifetime ban, so you weren't allowed to donate blood ever. And then that was changed to a 1-year ban. But as we can see here, there are many countries in the world, including counterparts like Northern Ireland and England and Wales and Scotland, where the restriction is only 3 months of abstinence. And then even some countries such as Brazil, where there's no restriction whatsoever. It's important to note that it is obviously not just men who have sex with men who could possibly contract HIV. It is also important to note that all blood that is donated is tested for any sort of infectious disease. And so a lot of people, including myself, are of the opinion that this restriction is quite outdated. And as you can see there is currently a case, a legal challenge in the High Court by a man called Thomas Hennigan that is challenging this restriction. So the stance that I'm proposing that CRC take is that the MSM blood ban is outdated, and that we denounce the blood ban in its current form, and that we also support Thomas Hennigan in his challenge of the blood donation restriction, forgive me. And then there's also some mandates in there. So it would mandate that the sabbatical team, so that would be all the vice presidents and the president, or whatever makeup that makes sense, runs an information campaign around the blood ban so that people understand that it exists. I'm sure there are many of you who were here who didn't realize that this was a ban. It would also mandate that the sabbatical team actively pursue and lobby for abolishing the MSM blood ban in its current form. I'd like to note that language is very particular, and it's particular on purpose, is that I am not a qualified epidemiologist. I also don't look into blood. That is not my area of expertise. So I don't want to say that a complete abolition is the right or necessary step that we should take. But at least, as we understand from counterparts in Wales and Northern Ireland and so on, that a 1-year ban is not particularly necessary. So looking to abolish the ban in its current form in whatever way makes sense given the evidence base. There's also a further mandate, if you can scroll down a little bit further, that the sabbatical team do not liaise with the Irish Blood Transfusion Service on organising blood drives within the Students' Union building or on campus until something changes in the current ban. It also has a mandate there that says if blood donation drives are organised on campus by external bodies that aren't the Students' Union, so that would be, I don't know, maybe the health centre, or perhaps, I don't know, maybe the university management may want to do blood drives, that the sabbatical team have to make known to that body that our position is that the Irish Blood Transfusion Service should get rid of their ban, and we do not support encouraging donations until that takes place. And then also we make that position publicly known as well. So just before I get into questions, if there is any, because I imagine that the final 2 mandates are really maybe the contentious ones of, should we really be opposing blood donations when blood donations are obviously very important, and that sort of thing. And I absolutely would agree with that notion that blood donation is extremely important. And as far as I'm aware, actually, DCU students are one of the highest donors of blood in universities, at least when they do those drives. But really what I'm asking you to look at is whether or not we think that this discriminatory policy should remain in place. I've been involved in Class Rep Council for 4 years before I went on to be a sabbatical officer, and 5 years ago, this was discussed as well, of we don't want to discourage blood donation, but we also know that this policy is discriminatory. And if I felt like this policy would be changed without this action, without us saying we won't work with the IBTS until they do something about this, that we would publicly oppose their blood drives until they do something about this. If I felt like they would change the policy without that, I wouldn't have put it in the motion. But there just is not enough public pressure on the transfusion service to change this. They're just the only real people who talk about this are gay men and bisexual men and other men who have sex with men, and there just is not enough of us to make enough noise for them to do something. So the purpose of this motion is really a firm stance that we say that we believe every person should be able to equally access services in Students' Union and in student activities. And we don't want something brought on campus that men who have sex with men, students who, in our university can't participate in. So after my ramble, I'm happy to take questions now. Is there any?
Thank you very much. Now, I assume we're going to have a flood of hands raised now. I shall move to Ty Jenkins first. I will unmute you now, and name and course code, please. You know the sus.
I do indeed. Ty Jenkins, BAJP3. I'm here as a class rep, but I'm also here as chair of DCU's LGBTA Society, and as I'm sure most of you will know, we're one of the biggest societies on campus, so I feel like our involvement in this kind of thing would actually hold a bit of weight with students there. I've worked with Dean, and I've worked with Dylan as well on this kind of concept on the blood ban. I would like to put myself, and I have spoken to them, the support of the entire committee of DCU LGBTA and the society behind this motion. As Dean said, obviously we don't want to discourage anybody from donating blood at any time. But what you're looking at when you're looking at an MSM blood ban is someone looking at me and telling me that because I'm a man who has sex with men, I've probably got HIV, which is discriminatory, fundamentally untrue, and actually the community of men who have sex with men have the highest uptake of taking PrEP, which prevents HIV in any sexuality minority. For those of you who don't know the history of AIDS, it used to be called GRID, which is gay-related immunodeficiency. By not allowing men who have sex with men to have the same access to donate blood and these services, we're keeping that alive. We're keeping alive the old homophobic adage and the baggage that comes with that. So, Dean, you have the full support of DCU LGBTA and myself as a class rep. And if anybody would like to discuss this outside of CRC, you're welcome to approach LGBTA as well. Thanks, Owen. I'll cede the floor.
Thank you very much, Tig. I am going to move on to Kristen. Just your name and course code once you unmute, please.
Yeah, Kristen Grant, AMPS 3. Dean, first of all, congratulations. It's a really well put together motion and full support. My only question is, how many blood drives and stuff every year do the SU actually organise, so that in us saying, let's not organise it unless they acknowledge this, you know, how much of a restriction is it putting on students? Because there are students that maybe can't go elsewhere to donate, or, you know, would they rely on this? So I just want to know how much of a restriction that would put on others, you know, before we sort of block them out completely.
Dean?
Yeah, so there's a couple of points in there. So in terms of how many blood drives usually there are per year, there's usually one main one each year in DCU that will go on. They'll have like a number of sessions. There's usually like 1 week in the year that it's sort of concentrated on. But on the idea of us bringing in this motion being that it restricts those students who say can't go elsewhere to donate blood, and we don't want to be preventing students from being able to donate blood. I suppose my response to that would be this motion isn't what's stopping those students from donating blood. It's the unwillingness of the transfusion service to make a change to their discriminatory policy. What this motion says is that, you know, we want people to donate blood, but we don't feel comfortable engaging with your service if you have a discriminatory policy. So if you just change that policy, we can promote this as much as we can. And actually, there would be more people in our university, myself included, that could now donate blood that couldn't. So I understand the feeling that people may have that if we're saying that we will oppose a blood drive on campus if the IBTS comes here and it's not organised by the students' union, that might seem like we're saying that blood donation is bad. And but that's really not what the nature of this is. The nature is that we're saying the service, which doesn't allow a particular section of our students to donate blood, is discriminatory, and we don't want to cooperate with them if they're not going to cooperate with us. You know, the IBTS already is boycotting. Essentially, they are boycotting men who have sex with men. So this motion would be saying that we will boycott you until you revisit that, I suppose.
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dean. We shall move to Dylan Mangan, Vice President for Engagement and Development.
Yeah, just to further support what Dean and Tig said there earlier, and maybe to contextualize it a little bit further for anyone else, I'm in full support of this motion, coming from a place of absolute ignorance at the start of the year. I came into the job looking to run a kind of blood donation drive on campus, and when I did that, it was only then was I educated by Dean and by Tig in LGBTA after a couple of meetings with those guys about the exclusionary nature of the blood drives that were being run on campus, and how as men who have sex with men, you know, you may feel left out of the loop by that by your students' union. So I think this motion is particularly important just to bear in mind as well. In future years, we may not be so lucky to have, you know, a sabbatical officer like Dean who knows so much on this issue, or we may not have any sabbatical officers who have necessarily that good of a relationship with DCU LGBTA, not in a bad way, but in the sense that if this motion is in place and if it goes into effect for the next few years, you're at least ensuring then that this continues and the education of completely ignorant, privileged people like me continues for years to come as well, which I feel like is really, really important. So I would encourage you to support this motion as well.
Thank you, Dylan. Lucian, you had your hand up. I'm just going to ask you to unmute now. Lucian Wadley, VP Academic.
Yeah, hello. I just want to completely echo what Dylan said. Similarly, as a person who was not affected by this MSM blood ban, I learned a lot about it over the last couple of months from Dean as a person who was. I think that it's really important as a union that, you know, the members who aren't affected by an issue like this show solidarity with those who are, and that we really acknowledge that boycott can at so many times be the greatest way of dealing with discrimination. It has been in the course of history. And I think in Ireland right now, we're dealing with very obvious case of very obvious discrimination. It needs to be gotten rid of as soon as possible. And the blood transfusion service have shown an unwillingness to act on it so far. And I think that being a university who give so much blood every year, we are in a prime position to actually send them a very loud and clear message that we're not going to stand for this kind of discrimination. We're going to stand with the men who have sex with men among our student body in order to get this broken down. And that I would encourage you to vote for this motion as it is in its current form, with all of the boycotting as part of it, which I think is really important for us to do.
Thank you very much, Lucian. Have I anyone else who wants to speak, bring up a point of order, propose, oppose, other such words associated with council? Anyone else? I had Fergal saying he wanted to speak earlier, and now I can't find him. Let me scroll. Fergal did say to me before. Did he just raise his hand? Perfect. Oh, I just lowered his hand. Sugar. The joys. Fergal Lynch, DCUSU president. I've asked you to unmute now.
Yep. Hello, how's things? Absolutely agree with Dean and the rest of the spelling officers about the mandates proposed here as well. It was just the wording of the last mandate about the publicly opposed drive. And I know the reasons being around that if we boycott it, it will make a louder noise. But I'm just worried about the DCU being one of the biggest blood donation banks in the country, actually, and the actual issues around that. So I was going to propose a motion. It was a motion 4A8 to take it in part, to take absolutely everything else except to publicly oppose the drive for mandate 4, because I think that we should be promoting to give blood, especially on campus, as raised earlier. But I definitely think that we could work around to create a lot of noise when they are actually on campus or giving blood, and to raise more awareness outside of the actual giving blood on campus as well, because I just think it's because of DCU's place and the level of blood that we actually do give from that campus. I think it's very important that we do actually maintain that they are on campus, but we just raise a lot of awareness around the MSM blood ban.
Thank you, Fergal. So Fergal has proposed to take the motion in parts. The first part being, no, Dylan, that's not. So he's proposed to take it in parts. So the first part will be the whole motion, as far as and must publicly oppose the drive. So it'll be cut off at must make their position known to the external body. And then the second part will be and must publicly oppose the drive. As is the case with all procedural motions, I have to give someone a chance to speak against the motion. I will go Dean or Tig. I'll ask Dean, and if Dean wants to give way to Tig, that is absolutely fine. Oh, Dean has put his hand down, so I will assume that is him giving way. Tig Jenkins, name and course code, please, even though I just said half of it.
Tig Jenkins, BAJP 3. Yeah, I understand your point there, Fergal. My counter would be to echo what Dean said, in that actually what we're asking for here is we're asking for access for all members of the union to have equal access to whatever the union engages with. And at present, we don't have that. And engaging with the IBTS with the ban as it is, it doesn't allow for all students to have equal access. if we don't all have equal access to something, that's fundamentally unfair. We have a students' union in order to ensure fundamental fairness. And as well, you have to think about how it feels when I come onto campus and there's a blood ban on campus, there's a blood drive on campus, and I have to walk by. I can't look at that because it reminds me that I'm seen as other. So you have to understand as well, not you yourself, Fergal, you in general, I'm not trying to come for you here, that actually this is already very othering to men who have sex with men who are on campus, and campus is our place, you know. I think unless there's public opposition, there's no point to a boycott, because if there's no public noise about the fact that we're saying this is unacceptable, why bother saying this is unacceptable in the first place? I would urge you all to vote against this amendment and pass this as it is, because if we don't make noise, nothing changes. And as Fergal has said, we're one of the biggest blood donating bodies in Ireland. Who better to listen to? Who better to be the ones to take a stand and say, actually, this is unacceptable. And until you fix this so that all members of this union have equal access to this resource, we won't play your games. I don't see the point in not making a public fuss about that.
Good.
Sorry about the awkward silence. I was furiously typing to Dylan to try and get the formatting on the thing correct. So I'm going to slow down for a minute now, just because this procedurally is a lot of voting at once. So the first thing we're going to vote on is that the motion be taken in parts at all. So the first poll that pops up on your screen, just don't pop it up yet, Podge, is going to be that the motion is taken in parts. We will then later, if that is passed, vote on the subsequent parts of the motion. But the first thing you're going to vote on is that the motion will be taken in parts at all. Please, someone tell me that's clear. Okay, cool. I see thumbs up. So a poll is going to pop up on your screen. Vote yes if you want the motion to be taken in parts. Vote no if you want the motion to be voted on in its current form as it is submitted. Does that make sense? Wonderful. It's popped up on screen anyway. So you are voting about taking the motion in parts. If you vote yes, you want the motion to be taken in parts. If you vote no, you want the motion to be voted on as is.
As James and Tyg highlighted in the chat just there, if the motion isn't taken in parts, it's voted on as an altogether piece as one.
Yeah, this isn't voting on the motion itself. We'll just leave a little bit more time just to let everyone wrap their head around that and get their votes in. Someone has said that makes sense, and I am so relieved. Okay, we've 105 people have voted, taking out the exec. That's everyone, and the balance of the votes won't tip the scales. Perfect. So I think we can close the voting on that. That procedural motion 4A8 to take the motion in parts has been defeated. We will move to, we've gone past the guillotine time for discussion now. So we shall move to a closing remark from the proposer of the motion, who is Dean. Dean has their hand up, and I will ask to unmute.
Yeah, so basically I would encourage you all to vote in favor of this motion. What voting in favor of this motion means is that DCUSU takes a firm stance against the discriminatory policy of the Irish Blood Transfusion Service. We would be the first university in the country to take a stance like this. I think it would set an incredible precedent for change across the country. Like Tyg mentioned, being a man who has sex with men, coming on campus, seeing those donation trucks, and every time thinking, I wish I could do that, but I can't, based on an assumption, not on reality. And I hope that further students in years to come, after I'm finished in my time here, that they no longer have to experience that. So voting in favor of this motion would guarantee that.
Thank you very much, Dean, for your closing remarks. We shall move now. We are going to be voting on the motion. You vote yes if you want this motion to be passed and these mandates to be enacted. You vote no if you don't. Please vote now. And Tyg and Dean, I'm just going to lower your hands. Thank you. Okay, last couple of seconds to get your votes in. Wonderful. So that motion has carried. Thank you very much to all who have contributed to the motion. Very well written, very comprehensive. Congratulations. And that was also a spicy bit of procedural CRC jargon. So I'm proud of us for getting through it. We shall move on. Thank you very much, everyone. We shall move on to items for information. We have 2 items for information. We will start with what is good loop from Mark Glynn. Mark, can you please raise your hand so I can see you? Mark Glynn is the head of the Teaching Enhancement Unit. Let me see. Mark might not be here. Hey, Mark is here. I've asked you to unmute yourself now, Mark.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Dylan's just going to get your slides up now. I just sent them across to him now at the last minute.
It's okay. I only sent them to you at the last minute, so it's all right.
Just a bit of background on this, I suppose, just while Dylan's working away to get up the slides. In my role as a member of the Student Associate Assembly for the National Forum, I invited Mark here today just to give a presentation about what is good loop, is what I called it, to the class reps, just for yourselves to be aware of and for yourselves to bring back to your lecturers then for any conversations you might be having with them. Just again, awareness, best tool you can have. So I'll pass you on to Mark now.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks, Owen, and thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to get the opportunity to chat to you today. Yeah, what I want to do and what we are all guilty of as lecturers is sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Lecturers don't know the best way to use a variety of different software. We're all in the same boat, lecturers and students alike. What I want to do is to highlight to you different ways that loop can be used, and hopefully then you'll be able to encourage lecturers to take up those options, because I believe the ones that I point out to you today will be incredibly valuable to you as a student, and hopefully make your studies that little bit easier. Not necessarily easier to get an A or a B, but easier for you to get through from one end of the year to the next. If you could go on to the next slide, please. Just so you're aware, and I appreciate some of you may have came from different colleges beforehand, but Loop is a mixture of different technologies. Loop is made up of the 5 technologies here on the screen. Zoom, you're using one of them, but what we have here is it's built on Moodle, Zoom, Unicam, Mahara, and Urkent. And each one of them have their own sort of benefits for you as a student. And for example, Mahara, which is the e-portfolio system you may know as Loop Reflect, every single student has a Loop Mahara account for life. So well beyond your time in DCU, any pages or content you create on Loop Reflect, which essentially is a web page or a collection of web pages that you can create, you will have for life. Zoom, every single student has their own Zoom professional account. That will allow you, for as long as you're a student, to have unlimited Zoom meetings and Zoom recordings. And we, particularly in times of the pandemic, we would strongly encourage you just to keep in contact with everybody. So we're not restricting it by saying you can only use it for DCU purposes. If you want to Zoom your granny, knock yourself out. Absolutely brilliant, do it. We just want you to stay in contact. And obviously it has benefits for your education and using it for classes and group work and so on. But Zoom, every single student has an account. So please use it. If you can go on to the next slide, please. What I want to highlight to you today is how it can be used because of the time of year it is, how Loop can be used to your benefit in terms of assignments. We get a lot of complaints, and rightfully so, we get a lot of complaints from students about assignments, about assignment workload, or about not knowing about the assignments, or saying they're all coming at the same time and so on. So what we have done is we've built in functionality in Loop that as soon as an assignment is created, it puts an item in your calendar, but it also puts an item in the lecturer's calendar. And why is that important? It's important because we want the lecturers from chemistry to be able to see the assignments in biology and in physics, because at the moment they tend to just concentrate on their own modules, and we know you as the students are getting it. A result of that is you may get 3 or 4 deadlines all in a very close period of time. So by it being in the Loop platform, that actually makes it available for you as a calendar and makes it available for staff as a calendar as well. And when I say put in Loop, I don't mean upload it in a Word document. I mean using the Loop functionality for assignments. It also allows you to, and allows the lecturer to set alternative deadlines, because some people may need extensions for a variety of different reasons, and it can control those extensions and make them down to an individual basis to allow more flexibility for students and less confusion for students. So I would strongly encourage you to ask your lecturers to put all of their assignments on Loop, even if they are, and I know we will get back to this stage at some stage, in classroom assignments, to give students the most transparency of their deadlines and their assessment workload. Would encourage you to put it in there. Another reason why we would say it is you can get an event reminder. An event reminder is, in this case, an assignment deadline. If you haven't submitted your assignment, you will get an automated reminder 3 days in advance, or 1 day in advance, or 5 days in advance. That won't happen if it's a Word document. That will happen if it's a Loop assignment. And that can, you're not going to get reminders if you've already made submissions, but that can help people keep on top of their assignments. The obvious one which we're all benefiting from now is you're not running across the campus to submit a hard copy of the assignment, that you can actually submit it online. But beyond COVID, and we will all get to that stage, I say touching all the wood around me, but we will get to that stage. I would encourage you to make sure your lecturers maintain having that online space for you to submit your assignments, because you may be in Balbriggan, you may be in Ballymun, but you may be in Ballymote. You still have to submit your assignment. Submitting it online through Loop would just make it so much easier for you. It also gives you as a student an electronic receipt and a timestamp for when your assignment was submitted, which is important. And the last thing on this screen is the Urkund similarity report. What I would encourage you to do, that can be set where as soon as you make that submission, it is sent straight to Urkund, and within an hour or so, typically it's an hour, it may vary depending on time of the week, but within an hour you get a report back. I would encourage you to ask your lecturers to send that report back to you straight away, and not wait until after the submissions were made, or not wait until after the deadline is passed, because that doesn't allow you as a student, or your colleagues as a student, to revise and resubmit the assignment on the basis of you may not have been aware that the text matching was going to come up. I'm not for 1 second endorsing taking text from anywhere else. And actually, I can say from personal experience, you'll actually spend more time trying to fix your similarity report than you will if you try write the assignment yourself. But that's a personal story more so. If you could go on to the next slide, please. The other elements that I'd like to talk to you about, again, speaking about assignments, because you all have them coming up now at this time of the year. There is a video platform part of Loop. It's called Unicam. So dcu.uni.cam. Every student has access to this. When you capture a video, whether it's on your mobile phone, whether it's on a camera, or on a camera on the wall, or a freestanding camera, you can upload it to Unicam, and it will easily transfer that video over to your lecture. You can easily submit it as an assignment. This is incredibly useful for you, because when you get a video, if you have an Apple phone, it records your video in a certain format. If you have an Android, it records it in a different format. And indeed, if you have a Handycam, Sony Cam, whatever portable camera, it records it in a different format again. And all it will do is end up with loads of grief between you and your lecturer when they can't see the video that you've submitted and you're looking for free video converters. Unicam does all of that very easily, takes the video, doesn't worry about storage because it stores it on your Google Drive. And remember, as a student, you have free access to unlimited Google storage. which again is another advantage of going, and we take advantage of that through Unicam and makes life that little bit easier for you. And of course, if you want to upload the video onto your portfolio or indeed as an assessment, it's easy as clicking one or two buttons to make that happen. The final thing I want to talk to you in relation to assessments, it's possible through Loop for you to choose your own groups. It's possible for you with assessments to actually have groups within your assignment. So for example, you may want to talk to everybody in your group that's doing the assignment, but you don't necessarily want to be changing mobile numbers. So you are chatting away on WhatsApp for whatever reason. But Loop has a messaging service, so different to the discussion forums on every course, a messaging service built in, which allows you as students to set up as many groups as you like and have those private WhatsApp style conversations built in on your Loop platform. And of course, if you have the Loop app installed in your phone, that has the added advantages of built-in notifications once messages are sent. It's also important for you to be able to see who's in your groups and have contact details for them. So again, if your lecturer is using Loop to manage the groups, it just makes your life that little bit easier. And the final thing I want to say about assessments is going back to the Urkund report. It's linking to academic integrity and plagiarism. At this time of year, we get an awful lot of students panicking about their Urkund reports and about similarity reports and about the stress of all these upcoming deadlines. And if I can just ask you to change to the next slide, please. What I want to do, and I don't want to play the videos that's here on it, but just want to bring to your attention, and Owen, please circulate these slides to whoever needs them in or outside of the Class Rep Council. But I want to bring to your attention, there is so much support out there, and it's so hard for students to tell the difference between real and fake support. Well, I can tell you now, the stuff like Studosity is real support. Stuff like Grammarly is real support. When you end up getting platforms like ivoryresearch.com or exams.ie or all those sorts of stuff, they will sell you a service, an essay mill type service where you tell them what the essay is and they will produce it for you. And actually, I've got an email received not by a DCU student, or at least not this particular student wasn't from DCU. But if you could go to the next slide there, please. There we go. This is a real email. So I want you to take just a couple of seconds to read this, please. So I appreciate the text might be quite small depending on the screen you're actually reading it on. But to get the gist of it, this particular company is offering £50, so it's UK, £50 for a 1,000-word essay. A long story short, these targeted emails and these targeted ads are coming to students worldwide based on your profile. It's brilliant the way targeting advertisement works. We benefit from it every day. But in the case of students, you're put under pressure by them offering these services. And when you do look at the videos and when you do read the emails, you're there thinking, this sounds actually exactly what I need. This is going to help me out. This is totally genuine. And you just start to try rationalize it. However, the problem with this and this particular email, they say when's your deadline? And for example, deadline for MG 101 is 26th of November. And they will send you the essay. They will then send you a follow-up email on the week afterwards saying, have you submitted it? Thanks for your service. Think of us again. 2 weeks after, they then will say, we charge you £50. We now want £500 because we now have proof that you have submitted and plagiarized essay for your assignment. This is not a position we want our students to be in. We don't want them to be involved in essay mills in the first place, but the amount of stress and panic that this causes when students are only in this boat because they're under pressure in the first place. This is horrible, horrible situation to be in. So please, please advise students not to take advantage of these essay mills, because while a handful of them may be decent enough businesses with well intentions, they will be a large portion of those that know this is cheating and know that you will get in trouble if they send an electronic receipt and proof of the essay that you've submitted to the assignment. So please warn your students that this actually is not a service to follow down. And if you go to the last slide then, please. The type of services that you can avail of, whether it's through My DCU on Loop, whether it's through the Discover study skills, and on that particular one, there are about 7 or 8 different short courses around study skills, around academic writing, and indeed the library provide the Let's resources around citation and plagiarism. Please use those as your first port of call. But if you are in trouble, if your students are in trouble, please reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. If they need extensions, this can be managed, but don't fall into the trap of going down the road of essay mills. And that's my conversation, my 5 minutes.
Mark, thank you very much. What I will ask is I'm going to invite you back to another council meeting later in the year. Contact details are there as well, where we can have an open sort of forum and discussion, because I know we're a little bit strapped for time this evening. And if anyone has any questions, I'm sure, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm sure you'd love to hear from people.
Yeah,
if they've any
we'd
questions.
love the student voice in all the stuff that we do. But if you have room for improvement and stuff that's there, or if you have particular challenges, please reach out, email us. When we're back on campus, pop into the office. The office number is there. But we would welcome your contributions and your advice.
Thank you very much, Mark. Loads of thanks coming in for the chat, from the chat as well. I think that's really informative, and hopefully now the reps will be able to bring that back to their classes as well. I'll be circulating those slides out as well to everyone after this meeting probably. So thanks again for your time, Mark, and I'm sure we'll have you back towards the end of the year as well.
No problem at all. And I've put in some extra slides at the very end there, which has more videos and more screenshots on how to do stuff. And indeed, the video on the BBC documentary about contract cheating, where the bribery just took an all-time hit and had some terrible effects on students involved. Okay. So
thank you very much, Mark. We shall move on now to our final item on the agenda. Then we just have AOB afterwards. Megan O'Neill from USI. Megan, can you please raise your hand so I can see you? I'll try and find your hair. Oh, here we go. Megan, I have asked you to unmute yourself now.
Perfect, thank you.
No worries, and Dylan will have your slides up. I did send them to you, didn't I, Dylan? I saw no. Oh, I didn't. Sugar.
All right, take your time. I'll just introduce myself while you're getting up the slides there. Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me, and thanks to the I'm so tired, I'm so sorry. Thanks to the team. My name is Megan O'Neill, and I am the Vice President for the Dublin region, the last Uachtaráin Don Gaeilge. And I work for the Union of Students in Ireland, which is a national organisation. It's basically like a national students' union, which, because you are members of DCU Students' Union, you are automatically a member of USI. So we work on all national issues, which I'll get into in a few seconds in the slides. So fab, thanks so much. Yeah, we'll just fly on to the brief overview of USI. Yeah, so we are a representative body, and we currently represent over 375 students, both north and south of the island. And we are a democratic organisation, and our primary kind of supreme authority of the union is Congress, and that happens annually every year, and it's representative of each affiliated students' union, which in your case would be DCU, and we are apportioned according to the size and student body of each union. So each union also sends one voting member to National Council, which in your case would be Fergal or someone in his place. And that's how we decide and plan on different national organisations. And we vote at that every 6 weeks. So our one is happening tomorrow. So we can just fly on there. So if you're wondering what we've been up to over the summer months, I've just put a brief overview there for you. So in May 2020, we would have had our new executive team elected. And then in June, we had a crossover of both the past and the current exec teams. And that's just kind of when we put each other up to date and make sure we're good to go for the year ahead. And then in July, we had Students' Union training, and all students' unions across the country come where we give different sessions to make sure that they are ready and prepared for the year ahead to best support yourselves, the students. And then in August, we have a kind of top-up training of SUT, and that's just some more sessions to make sure that we're prepared for anything that may arise over the academic year. So our campaigns that we're currently working on and have done since the beginning of the year, I won't go through all of these in depth, I'll just fly through them. I'll start with the level 5 restriction campaign, and that's happening now. That's kind of a stay distant, stay apart and stay safe. Education for All is an ongoing campaign. That's one of our largest for this year. That is a national campaign, which I'll talk about a little bit more, which is there for me. Thanks so much. So we launched an open letter to Minister Simon Harris and the Northern Ireland representative Diane Dodds. And we asked our members, we and our members outlined a number of different asks in the Education for All campaign, and I'll just tell you a couple. We wanted to end the student contribution charge, so that's the €3,000 that fee-paying students need to pay because we're the highest in the EU. We want to end the study pay now later, earn and learn policies and move towards publicly funded education at the heart of government policy. That's kind of the long-term overall goal. We want a publicly financed student accommodation building strategy and charter for student tenants' rights, and I know Dean's working really hard on that. We want to reform of student supports across the island that match the cost of being a student in the new decade, because the Susie grant hasn't been reinstated since 2012, but yet the cost of living is constantly getting higher and higher, and that's why students still can't make needs and whatever that saying is there. And we want to plan to address the crisis in the Irish Creative Institutes and put an end to the precarious working conditions for academic staff, and to see an immediate reduction of €500 in budget 2021, which we know didn't happen, and students will be receiving a one-time payment of €250, which is welcomed, but it's not going to be sustainable, so we do want more. So I'll just go back to the previous slide if that's okay. And I'll just fly through a few more campaigns. So we had an Irish campaign called Le Céile Togetherness, and that was basically where we come together and speak our cúpla focal. I wouldn't be too good at the old Gaeilge, but we're definitely kind of getting out the 6th-year Irish here and trying our best. And we support our members in trying to do so also. And then we had Black History Month. And we also had a campaign which is ongoing and one of our largest, which is Migrant Minds Matter. And that's all about ending direct provision in Ireland. But while we still have direct provision, making sure that we support those students in programmes of sanctuary, and likewise to make sure that they're okay and that they have as fair and an equal opportunity to education as any other students. That's very important to us as a national organisation. And there's actually a website that I just wanted to let you know that you can go to, where you can buy merchandise. You can get t-shirts, tote bags, bumper stickers for your laptop and stuff. It's really cool, and all proceeds will be going to Massey. This campaign, I should know, is a collaboration between Stand, USI and Massey. And then another campaign is the Academic Integrity Campaign, which I'll get onto in a few seconds, the Consent National Advisory Panel, Equality Student Advisory Panels, which I'll talk about in a sec, and then some upcoming events. Really exciting this weekend is Pink Train in 2020, and that's the largest LGBTQ plus kind of event of the year, where everyone gets together and go to educational workshops and gets to go to safe spaces, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm facilitating a workshop, so that's terrifying but very exciting. And then the Mature Student Seminar is happening on December 11th. Myself and the Equality and Citizenship officer is working on that. And then our Power of Disability Conference is happening in January 21st and 22nd. So I'll fly on. I'll let you know. We could fly through a few of these slides now. Moving on. So we can fly through that one. That's done. That's done. Sorry, I just kind of got through them all while I was going. Yeah, we can keep flying on. So just a couple more small things to note then is, here it is, I just have a few notes. So I've talked about pink training, which is happening at the weekend. And just to let you know that we have a number of advisory panels, and they are persons with disabilities, Black and ethnic minorities, parents and carers, mature students and LGBTQ+. So they're advisory panels that USI decided to bring into effect this year to kind of get students to feed into them and be able to kind of feed into the work of the national organisation. So please do reach out to myself at dublin@usi.ie or equality@usi.ie, and we'd be happy to have you sit on the advisory panels. We had the persons with disabilities last week and it was amazing. We actually had a DCU student there and she was phenomenal, and we're going to ask her to speak at the Power of Disability event actually in January. So it's really good to get your guys' feedback and feed in, because you definitely know more as students in the system currently at the moment. Let me just double check my last and final note. I definitely won't keep you too long. Is the important things to note. So we are currently working on an IBSA support and petition campaign. So that's Irish-based sexual assault. USI wholeheartedly supports any people who are affected by this campaign, and just want to let you know, do reach out to your internal support. But if you'd like to reach out to USI, that's perfectly okay. My email is dublin@usi.ie. You can see our graphics on Instagram, and you can also go to the IBSA Instagram and sign that petition there. And then the last and final thing is just to let you know that we are working on the nursing and midwives campaign. Chloe is doing Trojan work in the background on that, and we are actually having a meeting next week, or in the next 2 weeks, that we are asking 2 students from every institute who have nurses and midwives to come and feed into our campaign, where we try and get not only pay for students, but we get rid of the systemic issues that currently are in place, the wider issues basically affecting those on placement. So I just like to say thank you all so much for your time, and thanks for having me, and I welcome any questions. But if you don't want to ask me now, feel free to shoot me an email at dublin@usi.ie, but I'll take any questions if you want, if that's okay. Up to you guys.
Now, has anybody got any questions for Megan? Please raise your hand if so. Sean Smith has a question in the chat. Sean Smith B84. Hi Megan, are there any plans for student teachers? Should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yeah, we haven't let our student teachers fall through the cracks. One of our officers, the VP, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, the Vice President for Equality and Citizenship, is by degree a home ec teacher. So she's doing great work on that behind the scenes. It's just not really ready to be kind of unveiled to students yet. There's a little bit more work to be done behind the scenes, but I'll definitely link in with you, Sean, and council at the next council. I don't know if you have one before Christmas or if this is it, but I'll definitely link in with you when I have more information on that. But there definitely should be some infographics coming out about student teachers, pay for student teachers, and kind of working conditions and placement.
I'm sure Sean and I and all the other BEd students in the chat are very, very grateful for that. Has anyone else any questions for Megan? Just raise your hand, or you can put them in the chat either.
Yeah, we have Sarah down here with her hand raised. I'll go to her now.
Oh, I couldn't see that, so thanks for that, Dylan.
Should be able to unmute yourself there, Sarah.
Sorry, I'm still computer illiterate at this stage. Hey, Megan, I just wanted
Sarah, just your name and course code, please.
Sorry, Sarah McManus, and it's ETC3.
Thank you.
Megan, I just wanted to come back to your point in regards to the fees. I know you were saying you're looking for an immediate reduction of €500. How would that work in regards to your kind of stance in it, in terms of final year students that maybe have paid like the full set of fees at the start of the year? Is there any motion or idea put forwards as to, would they be like tax rebated? What way would that work if it did transparent?
So what our initial hope was, and it is kind of sadly just a hope, was that in the budget that has happened, the October 2021 budget, our hope was that it would be put into that there could be an immediate reduction. So whether that was refunds for students who paid up front, or whether that would be taken off installment plans, or kind of incorporated into the SUSI. That was our initial hope, but obviously we didn't get that in the budget. So what Minister Simon Harris has come out and said is that there will be a once-off payment of €250. So I might just explain that really quickly. So if you are a SUSI recipient, whether you get your kind of, what are they called? I used to get them. Whether you get the payments every month or not, you will receive a top-up payment. Maintenance, yeah, your maintenance. You will receive an extra additional €250 in your December payment, which I'm not sure of the date. It should be coming out maybe around the 9th or something like that. So that's if you're a SUSI recipient. If you are someone who has paid your fees up front, then you will be issued a credit note of €250, or you can request to get a check. Because obviously you've already paid your fees, you can get a check and get that cash now. But you won't be getting that €250 until after Christmas, because that's just a little bit more of a longer process. But if you are someone who has paid some of your fees, whether it be half or you're on an installment plan with DCU, then you will obviously just get the €250 reduced off your payments with DCU. So that's how the 250 is working. But kind of to sum back up your €500 question, basically, Sarah, we didn't get it. We're going to ask for it again for next year, but it is sad. Like people, like I'm obviously finished up in college, so I never got it. And it probably will be likely that yourself in final year won't get it. But hopefully for those students to come, we might make some headway on it soon. But I do apologise that we just weren't lucky enough in this budget.
Not at all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Sorry, I had myself muted there. And just for anyone, that SUSI date is the 18th of December, as a proud SUSI recipient. Megan, there's just a question from Kieran Harkin, BNID3. Does the €250 count for all students, including postgrads?
Yeah, it does. And there's additional information that I might circulate to Dylan, just because our VP postgrad has some additional information about the budget and postgrads, because I know there's something to do with SUSI in there. So I might just send that information to you post this meeting, just so I'm making sure I'm giving you everything exactly right. But definitely it is for the postgrads. And then I definitely agree with what Lucian is saying about email your TDs during the year about the student contribution charge. The more we flood their emails, the better. And we do have a lobby day every year, which will happen in June, but the sooner the better. So definitely do take on that advice about emailing your TDs.
And just I've had a few people who just messaged me individually, and I can't remember off the top of my head, Megan, so maybe you'll know. Does that €250 go towards part-time students as well, or is it just the full-time? Do we know?
That's a really good question. Where is my phone? I feel like the way it was posed to us was that it was going to every student in higher education. I'll try to get you the answer now. I feel like, yeah, it is everyone, but that's a really good question. So let me just try to get you an answer really quick. Even if I'm finished talking, I can even post it into the chat for you. I'm just asking the team here now for you. According to the Irish Times, it's full-time students. So I'll just double check.
Cool.
For you.
Perfect. Thanks, Megan. If no one else has any questions, we'll move on to our ALB, and then Megan or Chloe has her hand up. Sorry, my sincerest apologies. Chloe.
I literally did it just as you were moving on. Sorry. I might say, Megan, if you're checking with them on the part-time students, it's kind of confusing for full-time students who do a half year for nursing. I still never got an answer on that. So some nurses do 4.5 years, but they're still technically full-time students, but they won't be after Christmas. So I'm just kind of wondering where they fall in that situation.
So yeah, I just got some really quick answers for you. So basically, undergraduate full-time students and postgraduate full-time students definitely get it. Unfortunately, part-time students don't. And then Chloe, I'll follow back up with you about your specific question.
Cool. Thanks, Megan.
Perfect. Thanks, Megan. I'm not going to be taking any more ALB just because we've been going on for nearly an hour and a half now. It's been a long slog. We will go to, thanks for that, Megan, by the way. I forgot to say thanks. We shall move on to ALB. We have Connor Cassidy, INTB1, about Zoom. If you could raise your hand, please, that would be wonderful. I see you there. You should be able to unmute yourself. Just name and course code again, just for the record.
Hi everyone, Connor Cassidy, International Business 1. I won't keep anyone too long. It's just I've had a small number of people within my course say that their Zoom accounts aren't premium and or licensed, unlike most of us should be. And as a result, within lectures, they're having trouble access things like polls, potentially breakout rooms, etc., and in their own time when they're trying to, obviously because it's COVID, no one can be particularly meeting up to do assignments and all. And when they're trying to get everyone together for a group assignment and Zoom is not being the nicest tool in the world, they've just expressed their complaints. And when they're trying to resolve them, there's no designated department or person to go to, and they've just asked me to get some more clarity on the issue.
Connor, thank you very much. There was a race to raise hands there. I saw Lucian's first, so I'll ask him to unmute.
Hi, Connor. Yeah, good point. That definitely shouldn't be the case for anybody. Send me an email and I'll deal with it first thing tomorrow. It should be resolved quite easily. Everyone should be entitled to a free Zoom account, a premium Zoom account. If anyone, in terms of what you said about no designated person, that's why the Students' Union officers are here, I guess. So if there's ever an issue where you don't know who to complain to in the university, we can sort that out. So just email me if it's in that kind of area and I'll deal with it. But yeah, should be able to sort that. Just send me an email tomorrow.
Perfect. Thanks, Lucian.
Thank you, Lucian. Dean and Chloe, is that ye covered, or do you want to speak as well? Dean, oh, you both want to. I saw Chloe first, and then I'll go to Dean.
I was just going to say that it might be a case that you're not actually logged in on your Zoom account. It's really easy to not be, and if you just click a link, even if it's on loop, you're not automatically logged in. So if you actually open the Zoom app and log in with your DCU, like email and all that, it should fix it. But if not, then there's an issue. But I do know that some people are having that problem, and I helped them log in and it fixed it. So just maybe try that first.
Thanks, Chloe. And Dean, I'll come to you now.
Thanks, Chloe.
Yeah, it's just what Chloe was saying. You can all see that there's a link there in the chat. The students need to authenticate their account through that link first. And if they don't do that, that's why they're not getting the premium account. If they've done that and they're still not resolved, then we can, like Lucian said, you can shoot them an email and we can figure that out for you. If anyone does have any general IT or tech issues, there is always ISS. That's iss@dcu.ie that you can email if you need as well.
Cool.
Perfect.
And someone just sent in the chat there a link as well that people should be able to try, just see. And Lucian has sent the email for ISS as well. Connor, is that you sorted? You're happy out?
It's perfect. Thank you to everyone involved.
Excellent news. We shall move on to Dave, Class Rep Hub, and hand up. Ask to unmute. Name and course code, please.
Dave Paolo, ECE2. I've just had a meeting with the board of the School of Electronic Engineering and recently, and it was just told to us that the head of school was having trouble in getting into contact with the class reps because they weren't able to find them on the DCUSU Class Rep Hub. So they had to email the entire class to find out who the class reps were. So
I have a hand raised from Fergal Lynch, and then I will go to Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan probably can answer this better as well. The link that said lecturer might have been using might have been from the newsletter from previous weeks, and that link for the class rep hub has been since updated. So we can I know that for the next couple of newsletters that link for the class rep hub, which I'm assuming that's where he was accessing it from, is updated, and there is a new link for that. So I can shoot it into the chat now because that came up to our attention earlier today.
Yeah, and to just further Fergal's point just there, even if it wasn't the case of that's where they were accessing the link from, there's currently some admin being done on the class rep spreadsheets that feed into where our marketing officer gets the information for that class rep hub from. So reps that would have been recently elected in our autumn elections are still being added in, especially from the most recent ones in the last couple of weeks. Generally, if they can't find the information of a student on a class rep hub, and I'm sure I'll relay this information to the relevant authorities as well, they can always email me and find out that information there. Or if any reps particularly need to know reps in other year groups, just shoot me an email and I can let you know that information as well.
Thank you very much. Is that okay, Dave? I think he's muted again. Perfect. Wonderful. And last but not least, Oisin O'Byrne, BEd 1. What a fantastic course. Can you please raise your hand? And you can bring up your AOB. Your AOB is semester 2 timetable. Oisin, I've asked to unmute you now. Just name and course code again. Standard procedure.
Hello everyone, Oisin O'Byrne, BEd 1. So I just had students come up to me asking about the publication of semester 2 timetables, because obviously we're coming into December now, and people would just like to plan forward, like know when they're on campus and things. So I just wanted some clarity on that.
Okay, perfect. I will move to Lucian.
Hi, yeah, asked Lisa Looney about this the other day. Not looking likely that we're going to get a semester 2 timetable finalized in this side of the new year. But there's a number of reasons why I don't think that's the end of the world. The first reason is that 60 to 70% of students will not be on campus next semester, unfortunately, as it currently stands. It's annoying, but it's not going to really determine coming to Dublin or DCU or anything like that, hopefully. And then in terms of accommodation issues, campus res is loads of space. There's loads of space available. There's been no rush for accommodation. There's been no shortage of accommodation. Any student accommodation providers that we're aware of, designated ones, have had space available all semester and will next semester. So there's no rush on accommodation. In terms of anyone who may or may not have time on campus next semester and wants to know, for example, how many days a week will you be on campus? That's information that your program chair should actually have. So if you reach out to your program chair as a class rep, they should be able to tell you roughly, will you be on campus 1 day a week? Will you be on campus on a Tuesday? Will you be on campus 4 days a week? Will you be on campus every week? Like, that's information that they should really know just based on the modules that you have in semester 2. So on a local level, you can probably find out pretty clearly your balance of kind of campus versus online, but you'll probably have a sense by now, like if you were online all this semester and none of your modules next semester are like practical labs, you'll be online all next semester too. So unfortunately, that's going to be the case for people, but I will obviously continue to follow up on this. If anyone is being caused any particular stress by not getting their timetable soon, I'll obviously look into your specifics. But on a general level, I wouldn't be expecting anything super soon, but I also think that we can work around that together, hopefully.
Thank you very much, Lucian. Fergal, you had your hand up as well?
Yeah, just to add on to what Lucian said as well, that if there's a very like urgent need to know what your timetable looks like for next semester, the best person to get in contact with is your program chair, as they might not have it all finalized completely at the moment, but they should have a fair idea about how semester 2 would look like for your course. So it's probably the best course of action at the moment anyway.
If anyone has questions about stuff like this, during the week, just send me an email. You don't need to wait till CRC to ask. Like, I'll reply to you within 20 minutes most of the time. So just send me an email.
Thank you very much, Lucian, Fergal, and Oisin. Oisin, is that everything covered? You happy enough? You're muted. I'll ask you to unmute yourself just to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
cool. Wonderful. That is everything. We have made it to the end of another CRC. Dylan has been talking up this last live. Oh, RIP to my car. Yeah, that's right. I got stranded in Drumcondra today because my car broke down. RIP. It's in the garage. Hopefully I'll have it back by the end of the week.
Wayne Rooney one there. Just that's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. F's in the chat. I love it. Please.
Shauna asked there about class rep jumpers. Yes.
Class rep jumpers. Excellent. Dylan has an update on that, so we can stop talking about my car.
Yeah, making it own sad. First of all, I think it's really admirable of Wayne Rooney to chime in on public issues such as this. Second of all, yes, classroom rep jumpers are still in the works. We do have all your sizes. There were some people who emailed me 2 CRCs ago who said, I wasn't sure whether I sent my size in correctly or not. If that's the case, send me an email, dylan@dcusu.ie, and of course keep the F's coming in the chat for Owen's car.
And Dylan, do you want to do the big reveal of what colour the jumpers are going to be this year?
Not currently, because we still have to confirm that with the supplier. But CRC 4, that can be like the hook and tease. If you want to know what colour the jumpers are, come to CRC 4.
I absolutely love that, but you should all be coming to CRC anyways. You're constitutionally mandated to. That's all she wrote for the night, folks. F's in the chat are very much appreciated. Our next meeting is the 7th of December. I know, a full week in between a CRC. Who'da thunk it? I know, shocking. That's all from us, folks. Any questions? sucrc@dcu.ie is my email address. If you want someone useful, email the other people in the exec. That's everything. Thanks so much, everyone. We had some spicy procedural stuff that we managed to get through okay. I'm very happy with how it went. I'm going to send out another feedback form if you want to give out about how bad we did. If you think we did badly, that's all perfectly acceptable. Thank you, everyone. I'm rambling. Have a good evening. And please don't drown out Dean's email with Fs.